Hi everybody, this will be a presentation on on-premise contact center environment for the customer service department for my final project. Quick introduction. This project is to facilitate the development and implementation of an on-premise contact center environment for the call center agents within the customer service department. Currently they are using Cisco Finesse Contact Center Enterprise. We would like to transition away from that, create them an on-premise contact center environment to include all network infrastructure as well as a GUI. And this project is to be completed within 6 months from the kickoff date. Some business and technical requirements for the business side, the project to be completed within 6 months. Support 200 active agents and 500 active calls in the queue. The caller is transferred from the main menu to the agent queue within 30 seconds on average. And they want to have a shared voice mailbox for each queue to mitigate caller wait times. From the technical side, the system must have a life of service of at least 2 years after implementation. The system must be able to maintain 90% uptime, and the system must be able to upgrade in non-business hours to limit interruptions. Here we have a use case diagram as well as a user story that went with the creation of this use case diagram. Here we see a general caller calling from the outside public, calling into the main menu. From the main menu, they'll select from a series of options relevant to their desired queues. As long as they select a valid option that can be verified by the system, they will be routed to that queue. Here you can see that they selected the accounts option, which pushed them into the accounts queue. The queue will then check to make sure that there's actually active agents logged into that system or logged into that queue to be able to take that call. If there are no agents available, the caller will be given the option to leave that voicemail, as we talked about in the previous slide. If they choose not to leave a voicemail, they'll remain on hold. And if an agent becomes available within the next 5 minutes, then they'll just be routed to that agent like a normal phone call. But if not, then they'll be provided a prompt asking them if they would like to be routed to customer service so that they can at least get to talk to somebody and start getting that call triaged. And perhaps the customer service agent can reach out to, in this case, the accounts department and just figure out, is everybody busy, is anybody there, or why that caller wasn't getting through. And then you can also see, if we go back up to the main menu bubble, if they don't select an option at all, or if they select an invalid option, they will be automatically routed to customer service so that that call doesn't get dropped or they don't get held up in that menu. They just go ahead and that call gets routed. The next slide will be the diagrams that we use for this project. We use many different diagrams for this project throughout the process. The first will be a business process diagram. This diagram will demonstrate how a request from the internal customer, being customer service department, would be facilitated and implemented by the development team. So the request will first be evaluated by the project team for relevance to make sure that it's relevant to the overall direction of the project. As long as it's deemed relevant, it will be passed on to the development team, who will begin to design that application as long as it is functionally possible. After the application is designed, it will be sent back to customer service department for testing, and as long as we pass all tests, then it will be implemented. But if not, then we'll make any revisions necessary to fulfill those customer requirements. The next is a use case diagram we saw on the previous slide that demonstrated how a caller would interact with the phone system and have their calls routed to the internal actors, being the accounts agents and the customer service agents. The sequence diagram is an elaboration of the use case diagram in that it shows how the system will actually facilitate that, how the system interacts with the caller, as well as how the system interacts with itself and the associated databases to facilitate that call. The class diagram displays all the attributes that will be collected for the different objects within the system, and it also demonstrates or displays the actions taken by each object within that. So here we have the customer caller, the route queues, the agents, as well as the routing protocols. The data flow diagram is going to show the different processes associated, as well as the different databases associated with the system and how it will handle facilitating that use case in that sequence diagram. It's a little less elaborate than the sequence diagram in that it shows shapes and objects, but it essentially is an oversight of that sequence diagram in this case. The final slide of the presentation will be the concerns that we found during the project. We really only had two big concerns. The fact that we were using the company network means that we already had a lot of things in place to protect the network, protect information, but it doesn't mean that it removes that concern. It just means that it's already been potentially mitigated. So the largest concern that we found during the evaluation was that all customer personally identifiable information is protected within the network infrastructure. So as a call comes in, it's going to include the caller's phone number. That is PII, that has to be protected. All routing protocols, the network itself has to be secure from external threat actors. And all customer data stored within this databases must be secure. So when a customer creates an account, they're going to have name, date of birth, phone number, address, potentially a social security number, and all that information has to be secure from external threat actors. So the security of the network was our largest concern. The second concern was more of the project schedule. Because they're using a current customer service environment or contact center environment, there's a lot of things that they like and a lot of things they don't like. And so those are going to come through with requests down to the development team. And even if a request is deemed both relevant to the project as well as functionally possible, that doesn't necessarily mean that that request can be implemented within the time frame of that 6-month completion date. And so that is one concern that we have, is that the requests that we'll be getting in may not be able to be possible within that project time frame. I currently work in phones, and we use the Cisco Contact Center Enterprise, which for the basis of this project I use as what they were going from to what they're going to. And the reason this kind of came up for my project was because that's what we're trying to do within our company, is develop that on-premise contact center. So we've been going through a little bit of this, but we're still a long way off from being ready for this portion. But I thought that it would be a fun project to do and kind of give me some insight into what the future might look like for us. So I hope everybody had a good term. I hope everybody had a good final week, and good luck in the future, everybody.